Hi, church children. It's Reverend Vicky, obviously. I'm here at home on December 20th on Sunday, and we were supposed to have a children's chapel today, and there were some tech difficulties, which I'm sure you can understand. Basically, I was with the grown-ups at the church service on Zoom, and I was supposed to start your meeting, but then the other one ended, and Zoom wouldn't let me have two meetings at the same time. So if you were trying to sign on to that, I'm sorry, and we will reschedule. But right now it is coming up to Christmas Eve, and it is a very strange Christmas, I know. And I wanted to just check in with you about that and make sure you're all doing well and, dealing with everything as best you can. And I wanted to just tell you, one year I spent Christmas totally by myself at a farm that is also a convent, which is where nuns live, which is a group of Catholic women. They're almost always Catholic, and they have devoted their entire lives to praying and doing acts of service. And in this case, these nuns don't talk. They are a silent order, which means that they take vows of silence so that they can better concentrate on prayer and contemplation. Just think about living that way. That's really probably very different from the way you live, and it certainly is different from the way I live. So one Christmas, I couldn't be with my family or friends, and so I decided, well, let me just do a very different thing, and I went out and I stayed overnight for a couple of nights in their guest house. And there was no phone. I didn't have a phone because we didn't have them back in the early 1990s. And I didn't have a radio or a television or a computer. All I had was a couple of books and my diary, my journal, and me. That was it. No one else to talk to. And I wanted to tell you that I ended up having a really, really nice time. And one of the things that made it really nice was I had an attitude of just, well, this sure is different. Let me see what I like about it and what I don't like about it. And there were some things that were really hard about it and some things I was sad about missing. So that was okay. I just was able to say, I'm sad about some things, but this is really kind of beautiful, and it was so peaceful. I took some walks and I just read my book, and I knew it wasn't going to last forever. Just like COVID isn't going to last forever, and soon enough, well, I hope pretty soon, we will get to do the things that we love to do and have our holiday traditions. Speaking of tradition, I have lit our chalice here, our symbol of Unitarian Universalism, and I'd love it if you would join me in our chalice lighting. Let's see, I'll just hold that up for a minute so you can see it. We light this chalice because we are Unitarian Universalists. We are the church of the open mind, the loving heart, and the helping hands. Together, we care for our earth and help to spread peace and justice in our world. Amen. Mrs. White, Megan White, shared a story with me called what's it called? The Story Blanket. And it's a wonderful book about a character named Baba Zara, who lives in the mountains in a little village. Doesn't say where. I think maybe it's Russia. I don't know. My own grandmother was from Russia, and I called her Baba. So anyway, I thought you'd like to hear this story, and I'll come back in the end to ask you some questions that you might think about after hearing it. I'll see you in a minute.
Hello. Today I thought we'd share a story called The Story Blanket by Farida Wolf and Harriet May Savitz. Deep in the snow-covered mountains was the tiny village where Baba Zara lived. The children loved to settle down on Baba Zara's big old blanket to listen to her stories. One day, Baba Zara noticed there was a hole in Nikolai's shoe. When the children left, she decided to knit Nikolai some nice warm socks. but so much snow had fallen that winter that no one could get through to the village to deliver wool yarn. How could she knit warm socks without wool? "Every question has an answer," said Baba Zara. "I just have to think of it." She poured herself a glass of sweet tea to help her think. Before she had taken 3 sips, Baba Zara knew what to do. "I will unravel a little of the story blanket and use the wool for Nikolai's socks," she said. Late at night, when everyone was asleep, Baba Zara trekked through the snow and left the socks on Nikolai's doorstep. A few days later, Baba Zara noticed the postman looked quite chilly. Soon after, the postman found a scarf wrapped around his mailbag when he left to start his morning rounds. "Do you know who made it?" he asked everyone he met, but no one did. The schoolmaster was surprised to find a pair of warm mittens on the woodpile when he brought in wood for the school stove. Mrs. Ivanov flapped the ravens from her wash with the new knitted apron she discovered beside her water pump. Before long, the grocer was wearing a new shawl instead of her old moth-eaten one, and the children had to sit closer on the blanket when they came to Baba Zara's for a story. Day by day, the villagers grew more curious about the mystery gifts. Baby Olga received a soft new blanket, and the butcher showed off a fancy new woolen cap that covered his shiny, bald head. The children were now squashed together on Baba Zara's very small story blanket. Confusion grew when the tailor's scraggly cat showed up, purring and grand, in a snug new coat. There was no story blanket left to sit on. The villagers asked the mayor to help them solve the mystery. "You know what Baba Zara always says," the mayor replied. "Every question has an answer." When the children saw the socks, the scarf, the mittens, the apron, the shawl, the cap, the baby blanket, and the cat coat all together, they shouted, "It looks like Baba Zara's old story blanket." "But she doesn't have it any more," said Nikolai. "Aha!" said the mayor. "The mystery is solved. Baba Zara used the wool in her blanket to make these gifts. Now it's our turn to give Baba Zara a surprise." So while Baba Zara slept, a few rows of wool were unraveled from every blanket in every household and left on Baba Zara's doorstep. Baba Zara was amazed when she opened her front door in the morning. She had never seen so much wool yarn in so many colors, and on top of it all was a sign that read, "For your new story blanket." The next time the children went to Baba Zara's for a story, there was a colorful new blanket to sit on and a tale about a village where everyone shared with each other. As she hugged the children goodbye, Baba Zara noticed a hole in Alexandra's sweater. She wanted to knit Alexandra a surprise, but the snow was still on the hills and no wool yarn was to be had anywhere in the village. Baba Zara knew that every question had an answer. She looked at her new story blanket and smiled. The end.
I love that story. I'm so glad that Megan shared that with all of us because I didn't know it before. I think Baba Zara is a great character, and I love her saying, "Every question has an answer." Do you think that's true? I think that what Baba Zara means is, when you see something that someone needs, I bet you can figure out how to help them. So Baba Zara is great at noticing, which is something we should all be really good at. Because you have to pay attention to people that are not just us, not just our family, not just maybe our best friend, but really to notice and pay attention who in my life might need something, like a new pair of mittens, or a meal because they're hungry, or some other kind of help that I can help them get by sharing. It's a story all about sharing. I love that Baba Zara even decides that the cat needs a coat. That part made me laugh. It also is a reminder that in small villages like the one Baba Zara is from, and that's the kind of little village that all my grandparents who are immigrants to the United States, all of them come from little villages like that. That it's not easy to you can't just go to the store and get a new blanket. You can't just go to the store and say, oh, I'm going to buy an apron or a new scarf for you. Because there's no stores. You have to make what you need, and you don't always have all the wool you need or all the fabric to make a new garment or, a cap. And so you have to think about solutions. And this is what gives rise to all this beautiful spirit of sharing. Now it's much easier for most of us to go to the store or go somewhere and just get a blanket, right? But it wasn't always that way, and lots of people in the world don't have access to that. So it's a good reminder. I know that some of you helped share with people who need warm hats and mittens and scarves by bringing donations for our mitten tree, and thank you if you did that. And if you still want to donate, because someone else might be chilly and need some gloves or a scarf, you can drop those donations off at church and we'll make sure that someone who needs them gets them. Anyway, I wish you a very happy holidays, a Merry Christmas. I know it's a different one this year, but there's plenty of love to go around, and there's, I hope, lots of good food and fun things to do and lots of cozy blankets to wrap up in and have a good winter snooze. So I am leaving you with a hug. Put your arms around yourself and give yourself a hug from me. And I will talk to you soon.